Hi guys, Squad here, and this is Simple Planes. This is a game that I saw on Steam, about £10 I think it is, I saw on Steam a few weeks ago, and I was kind of wondering about this and thinking to myself, should I try it? There's no shortage of these kind of sandboxy games kicking around. I suppose what attracted me to this one was when I watched a couple of videos about it, and I was like, that's got an interesting kind of construction thing going on. So I had a look at it, had a play around with it, and it is kind of fun. If you like this kind of thing, you build your own vehicle, you build your own aircraft. It specifically focuses on aircraft, but you can build land vehicles as well. And then there are a whole bunch of things that you can do with that. There are challenges that you can do, such as, you know, build an aircraft to do a short takeoff from a carrier that's going the wrong way against the wind, so you've got a tailwind, carrier landing, build an aircraft that can fly on a quarter of a gallon, fly as far as you can. So there's a bunch of challenges here. There's also weapon systems in the game. Guns, missiles, unguarded missiles, bombs, unguarded bombs, air-to-air stuff. And you get, there's also enemies that fire back, and there are things like the bridge demolition, which you have to do, where you try and take out a couple of bridges, but there are SAM sites firing missiles back at you. So there's a fun, you know, aspect to this game as well. There's also like a whole bunch of raceways. So even though the game is called Simple Planes, from what I can gather, you can actually build ground-based vehicles as well, and go in a kind of bizarre, a bit like, what's that game called? Cross, there's another one where you build ground vehicles and you try and shoot each other. Like I say, there's no shortage of these kind of sandboxy games, but I went through the whole school thing. I'm going to show you, we're going to build an aircraft together and do some stuff, and I'll kind of give you a feel for the game. So what I'll do first is I'll go into build and fly, and we'll click on new. Do you want to build a new aircraft? Yes, I do. I can actually show you some pre-mades. It comes with a bunch of pre-mades here, so you can get a feel of... That's actually a crazy thing that I made. Don't worry about that. There are some pre-mades, and there are some that you can download off their website. As you can see, you can build P-51 Mustang, you know, rocket-based stuff, Pigpen rocket, which is my variation, a seaplane. That was my little test jet, twin prop. You know, you can build some cool stuff. That I think somebody built an A-10 in it as well. We're not going to do anything so adventurous today. I'm just going to show you how it kind of works. I guess I'm drawing from Kerbal Space Program, and Kerbal Space Program's method of constructing vehicles, and I'm going to show you some of the differences. The basic principles are the same. You kind of start with your cockpit. There are different cockpits that you can go for here. As you can see, you just literally drag one in like that. Whatever cockpit, and if you drag a piece to the top, it just deletes it. It's as simple as this. We'll start with this cockpit. It really doesn't matter. What you then do is you can build a fuselage out, put some wings on it, add some bits and pieces, some weapon systems if you want, landing gear, all that kind of stuff. So let's just start doing that. We'll build a, let's see. Now it has got fuselage components down here, but they're actually quite big, as you can see. So what you can do is just drag these blocks in. These blocks are kind of weird. They're almost like fitting soft bags, which then meld into the rest of the fuselage. So they're kind of cool. You can snap them away and put them back again, and wherever you put them, it kind of gels and merges it in with what's already there. So that bit's different to, say, Kerbal Space. In Kerbal Space, you get fixed units which just have attach points on them. Whereas in this game, as you can see, it melds things together, which is a different aspect, I think. So obviously, you know, you build your fuselage out like this. Let's just drag some blocks in like that. And then we'll have to put some wings on, and I'll show you the more scientific aspects of all of this, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you've played at something like Kerbal. Right, there we go. We'll make this reasonably long, and then we'll put some wings on it. It does have some cool stuff that you can do when it comes to the wings, though. Now, that's a reasonably long fuselage. What we can now do is, say, drag in an angled block like this. And when you pick up an angled block, if you press the WASD, Q and E keys like that, you can rotate the piece around. As you can see, it melds that in, and then you put that in, and that's how you can essentially narrow a fuselage down, which is actually quite cool. That's getting reasonably long now. Let's put a nose cone on the end like that. So we flip it around first. And then we'll put the nose cone on. There you go. So that's, you know, the basic fuselage of an aircraft. It's nothing, it's not fancy or anything like that. It's just fairly basic. And now you've got to decide, well, you know, how are we going to power this? So one way we could go for is propulsion, and we could stick, for example, a T-1000, which almost sounds like a Terminator. We could stick a T-1000 on the front like that if we were going to go for a nose cone driven, or we can put the wings on and put the engines on the wings. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of engines. There's propeller-based engines and there's jet-based engines. The way it works is you put the jet, if you're going to use a jet engine, then you need to put an inlet on the fuselage somewhere, and then the two are mystically linked. So it draws its air in here and obviously propels it from here. And the wings usually have fuel tanks in them, and you can put extra fuel tanks by putting these blocks in there. Obviously, it's quite a sizable block, this one. It's 20 gallons. Roughly a wing will hold 20 gallons, but you can resize the wing, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's just build something super simple. One thing I want to show you first is if you click on the menu top right here, and then you go show COM, COL, COT, this displays the center of mass, the center of lift, and the center of thrust. There you go. So we've only got one, and that's the red. So the red is the center of mass. The center of mass, of course, in case you don't know, is all of the mass added together centralizes around this point, so that if you was to stick, you know, your finger there like that, then this thing would balance. Imagine like it's the middle of a ruler, basically. It's the center balancing point when all of the mass is taken into account. That's the center of mass, and it's pretty important. Let's add, for example, the T-1000 propeller. We stick that on the front. Now we'll get a center of thrust, which is the gold one. Now, when we did that, that brought the center of mass forward, you see, because obviously this thing weighs quite a bit. So the center of mass comes forward, and the center of thrust is here. Now, ideally, you want the center of thrust to, ideally, go through the center of mass, because that gives you a nice sort of straight pulling power, and you don't get any weird rotation when you... Because if you think of this, this is a force acting, if you like. I know it's dragging her and pushing it backwards, but effectively, in a way, it's a pulling force. And if it doesn't pull through the center of mass in a straight line, both horizontally and vertically, then it will cause a slight rotation. It's not a big deal, but it's something to watch out for. If you put your engines down here, you're going to have a bit of a problem. Let me put it that way. So this is going to move around as we build this thing out. Let's now put that back. We've got undo down the bottom here. Thankfully, let me get rid of that. Down here, and click undo, and it will put that back as it was, which is a nice little feature. Now, I don't know why it's zoomed it all the way back here, but there you go. Undo complete, and I've moved your aircraft from here to here. Okay. That's pretty strange. Right, so we'll save that. So you go up to the menu, you hit the save button, and you give it a name. We just call it, I don't know, prop 1 or something. Hit save. There you go. So now we've got prop 1. It means that we can load that back in anytime we want from our list. There you go. And we don't have to worry about losing that. So that's cool. Let's get a wing on here. Where do we put the wing? Well, that's all down to a bit of physics. So we click on plus and we go to wings, and we shall put in a primary wing. Now, the cool thing about this game, and again, this is unlike Kerbal, it will mirror things for you. So what we can do is just build out one side of the aircraft and then mirror it. And that is tremendously useful because it means the center of mass, which is this red ball here, doesn't go off to one side because we've added more stuff on this side than that side. So we'll just worry about doing one side. It will bring a primary wing in here. We'll put it on there. And as soon as that attaches, the center of mass will, of course, move slightly. Now we get the third ball, which is the center of lift. And this is the center of lift. This wing is producing lift, obviously in that direction. And so there is a relationship between the center of thrust, the center of mass, and the center of lift. All these things need to be considered, shall we say, for your aircraft to fly nice and stably. But we'll cover that in a little bit more detail as we build this thing out. Now, one of the more interesting aspects is this. If you click on the little wing icon over here, you can edit the wing. And you can start off by saying that the airfoil is semi-symmetric, flat-bottomed, or symmetric. Now, in case you don't know what that is, that's to do with the shape of the wing. Most aircraft primary wings are semi-symmetric. In other words, they're asymmetric. They're asymmetric so that you get, in the kind of horizontal position of the aircraft, you do get some lift. They're deliberately designed that way so that, well, it just trims out easier. Let's put it that way. They don't design them perfectly flat. What is weird though is it doesn't actually show the shape of this. If I change flat bottom, symmetric and semi-symmetric, it doesn't change the shape of the wing. So we don't get a visual clue as to what it's doing. We just get this option here. Anyway, let's click on edit wing shape. And what this lets us do is control the wing size and shape, which is really nice. This isn't something you can do in a game like Kerbal, so we can make the wing a lot bigger. Notice the center of mass moves out from the middle, but we're not too worried about that because, like I say, we're going to mirror this. We can actually change the inner shape like that, and we can change the outer shape like that, so we can go for a more delta shape if you want to. You know, we could even make a kind of a swept wing. All of this, you know, is something that can be played around with and will have hilarious effects, no doubt, on the flight characteristics of the aircraft. So let's just go with that one, and we can go to add control surface. So here is this. If you click here, we control the roll, pitch, and the yaw. Well, normally we'd want to control the yaw. Normally we want to control the roll. And what we can do is we can edit the shape of that, and so we can change the size of that control surface if we so choose. Looks like we can only do it in that direction. So normally we'll put the roll over here. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to... How do we delete that thing? Control surface, let's just delete that for now. Put the wing back. No, I just dragged it away. Put the wing back and edit the wing shape. There we go. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller and that a little bit wider. We'll make it a bit longer that way. Trying to consider the length of the aircraft compared to the size of the wing. There we go. That should do it. So normally we'd have some roll elements on the end here. So I don't know why it won't let me move it over. Edit shape, invert, no. Trim, no. We don't want to have it. You can actually have it trimmable if you want. What I actually want it to do though is move it further out. And it's not letting me... Ah, there we go. There we go. That's how we do it. There we go. Yeah. So normally you would put the roll control surface out here because it has more of an effect out here. Because it's further away from the center of mass. So it has more of a roll effect, if that makes any sense. And then here you'd have sort of... Well, what they normally put here on wings is the kind of lift and flaps and that kind of stuff. So let's put that back. That looks pretty good. That'll give us a nice roll characteristic around at this point. What else do we need to do? Well, we're going to mirror that later, so we're not worried about that. That wing is actually quite big, you know. Actually, possibly quite big. Bigger than I want, really. Let's go with done. Let's edit the shape of that and move that back in a little bit. There we go. Obviously, the bigger you make that surface, the more roll effects it will have when you operate that control. Now then, we need to get some other wings on here. Of course, we need to get the vertical stabilizer, otherwise known as the nose fin, if you like, the vertical stabilizer. And yep, that can be edited as well. So you can edit the wing shape, and you can make that a bit taller if you want, make it a bit thinner if you want, anything you like, really. There you go. So that's going to give us the yaw action. And then let's go back. We want to add a horizontal stabilizer, which gives us the elevators. So we're going to put that on like so. That actually looks reasonably the right size and shape. I'm going to leave it like that. It's the same aspect as the vertical. So that's pretty cool. What else do we want to do? We need to add our... Well, we've got our propulsion. So we need to think about what we want to do. Well, we'll do weapons in a minute. I don't want to do weapons just now. We'll put some of that on in a second, just for the lols. What I want to show you now is some landing gear, so we'll get some gear on. So where do we put our gear? Well, there's wing gear, and there's retractable wing gear, and there's retractable fuselage gear. But what we should probably do before I do this is mirror it, so that if we're going to go for a wing, we can put the landing gear on the wing. So let's do that first. So we go to, well, you can use this to mirror it, but I kind of like going this way because you can choose which side you want to mirror it from, and you can choose the part of the plane, as in the vertical plane that you want to mirror. So that looks good to me. So we just click mirror, and there you go. We now have a completely mirrored aircraft. Now, if you wanted to, you could then come in and you can paint this thing up. For example, I want to paint it bright yellow. You can certainly do that. You can see it's all paintable. You can make the whole thing bright yellow. So you customize to your heart content. Maybe I should make it yellow with black stripes as a warning to others. Don't mess with this. Don't come near this thing. Actually, that should have been in white. There you go. So you make it look a little bit more pretty if you want to. Bright yellow. That is actually quite horrible, isn't it? I know you're probably sitting there thinking, that is disgusting, Squirrel. What are you doing? You can change palettes as well, by the way. So let's make it... Ooh, let's make it a... let's make it a sort of British racing green, shall we? Like that, with some light green wings. The green monster. There you go. Green with white wings. Yay! And then for the propeller, I think we'll have a traditional black colour. Don't like the cockpit being that strange blue. Let's change that to white. There you go. That looks absolutely horrible. Lovely. Now, our centre of mass is just about here, and our centre of lift is way back here. And that's not good, because the lift that gets generated upwards here is quite far away from the centre of mass. And what that means is it'll tend to roll the aircraft forward. So there's a bit of a clue there. I'm going to finish the paint thing. There's a bit of a clue there that we need to move the wing. But what I want to do first is play around with the landing gear, because that's going to change the centre of mass. There's no point messing about with the wing just yet until we decide how this thing is going to actually land. Now, landing gear, let me show you some normal landing gear. Click, and so you've got retractable gear like that, which we don't really want. You've got a wing landing gear, which you can obviously attach to the wing like so. So you would go into here like that, and you would position it wherever you want it to be. Let's say, I don't know, here, for example. And you can see the centre of mass is going to come back a little bit. And then you need some kind of a nose wheel gear. So you could put, for example, that kind of thing. But you can see that that's the propeller is going to hit the ground if we do that. So that's no use to us. We need something a little bit longer than that. This is a rear landing gear. This is a retractable. So we could go with that one, except that again is too low. So what if we put a resizable wheel? Never actually used a resizable wheel. Landing gear. We might have to separate we might have to create some space on the fuselage so that the gear can be a little bit further down, because as it stands right now, if you look at this from side on, the propeller is actually going to strike the ground because the wheels are not low enough. So one thing you could do, of course, is move the wing down. Don't forget to move both down, like that. And if you look at the height of that now, it's quite a bit below the propeller. But we've still got the problem with this guy. We need to make him extended a lot more than he currently is. And that's no good. If we go for a large retractable gear like that, then that is just about right. Now the centre of mass is here, so when this thing touches down, the weight is going to approximately be here. But let me just put the other one, the other landing gear in first, and of course I need to make sure I put it in the right place. I could just go back and mirror this thing, but let's not worry about that. Let's go for that British racing green effect on the landing gear, like so. Looks a little bit weird. It'd be nice if you could spray the different components of this. I'm not sure if you can or not, to be honest. But if we look at this on the side now, there's the thrust going through the centre of mass, so that's quite in a straight line. Central lift, central lift is still a little bit far away from the centre of mass, I feel. So I think there's a clue there that we should probably pull the wing a bit forward, like that. Let's just bring it forward like that. And now the lift is behind the centre of mass, which is where it should be really, and not too far away. And I've just noticed that that is now sprayed there. Now the centre of mass is actually a bit close to that landing gear, I feel. So I think I'll probably move the landing gear. Oh, you scumbag game. I think I'll probably move the landing gear back a touch, and I might even put it out a little bit as well. So if we put it like that, maybe. You can see our centre of mass is in the middle, which is good. Why has it gone back to yellow? That's a bit strange. There we go. Okay, I think we should probably give it a little flight now, just to see what it's like. Let me save it first. I thoroughly expect it to crash into the ground, but we'll see how it flies. The first thing is a control check, so we'll just make sure elevators, rudder, and ailerons are all working, which they are. Now, it looks absolutely horrible, but it's sitting there stably on the runway. Down the bottom here, we've got our thrust, and our thrust goes from 0 to 100%. Above that, we've got our speed. On the right, we've got the fuel tank, which currently has 100% fuel. Remember, there's approximately 20 gallons in each wing, but it depends on how you shape it. And then, of course, we can see our attitude on our attitude indicator. So what we do is we're going to start our thrusting forward. 50% thrust, are you going to move? There we go. This is probably going to be a fairly slow aircraft. But that's okay, because we can get used to flying first. There we go. Let's pull the nose back a little bit now. Don't know what the takeoff speed is yet, because I am the test pilot, and we just made this thing. Yay, we're flying! Woohoo! Let's retract the landing gear. Now, I'm already noticing that if I let go of the stick, it has a tendency to dive down like that. And that is all to do with the position of our centre of lift versus our centre of mass. It's also to do with the weight of the fuel and the wings being nearer the front, so the aircraft at the moment has a tendency to want to dive down, which is something that you could play around with to see if you can get it to trim out a little bit better naturally. But anyway, you can get a feel for the game now, feel for the flying aspect of this game. You can change view like this. You can go for an orbit view, you can go for a flyby view, you can go for a cockpit view, which obviously looks better when you've got jet engines and you don't have to look through a propeller, or you can just go for a kind of a chase view like that. You can use the mouse to move around like this. There's one of the bridges. You can actually have a mission where you try to blow the bridges up. Now, I'm coming in a bit fast, but let's just see what happens. This is definitely not an advisable landing approach. But I just want to see what it's like when we try to land it. Bring the power down as well. You notice when you bring the power down, it doesn't change the tone of the engine. What seems to happen is it changes the volume. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. It's reasonably stable. I should probably put a little, maybe a little wheel here or here. I'm not sure, just in case. Let me hit the brakes now. There we go. So it flies. That's the main thing. It flies. Let's put some guns on it, shall we? So we go exit. We go back here, and maybe let's have a couple of weapon systems. Although this thing is quite heavy already, and that engine's not that powerful. One of the things we could do, and this might be a really bad idea, one of the things we could do, no, that's actually too big. Yeah, that's a little bit too big as well. That's obviously made more for, it's a bit like something you might see on a dash, for example. Let's put that back on. What I might do is just undo that, just so that we get that back to where we were. Now, we need some pylons. If we're going to add some weapon systems, we need some pylons here. So we go to, is it in wings, the pylon? Yes, there it is. There's a small pylon here. That's going to give us an attachment point for the weapon. Let's see, how's that about there? Yep, that looks good. So we'll put that in. We'll spray it white like that. And we shall add, let's see, weapons. So what have we got under weapons? Well, you've got these missiles, bombs, you name it. You've got all kinds of stuff. We'll just stick a wing gun on there for now. This game let me play ball for a second. Pick up the wing gun. Okay. Come on, game. Oh, the wing gun doesn't need a pylon. My bad. I think the minigun might. There, the minigun needs a pylon. The wing gun just attaches directly, like, into the wing. So, a bit more like the Spitfires and the Hurricanes, that kind of thing, where they have little holes here. Although Spitfire didn't have a gun here. No, I can't remember. Anyway, there are some World War II aircraft that have the guns in the wings here like that. Actually, I can't remember if the Spitfire does now, I'm thinking. Never mind, I'm sure you guys do. We'll put the second pylon in, like so. Just make sure it's nicely centered, and then we'll add another minigun, like that. And then, you know what, let's spray the whole thing. So maybe let's spray that pylon like this, and we'll play the guns black like that. I think that's not quite symmetric, you know. So maybe what we should do is remirror from this side like that. Just to make sure everything is bang on. And if we put the center of mass and lift back on. See that, and the lift is back here, and that's causing that movement. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's not happy about that. This is where you get into the I wonder if I do this, what will it be like if I do that, for example? If I bring the wing all the way forward, how will it feel? Save, prop, overwrite, go. So straight away you can see that the aircraft's got a tendency to pitch back now. It was bouncing, almost striking the tail section. Let's see if this thing will actually take off with all this weight on board. I'm guessing not. Guns work, which is the main thing. So you can go air to air mode, air to ground mode, that kind of thing. If you've got any missile systems on board. I mean, this thing takes a while. There we go. Come on, up you go. Yeah, there we go. We are airborne. So if we go into cockpit view, you then get this kind of HUD like that. And I'm sure you get the general idea. And yes, indeed, you can do barrel rolls. Whoa, and my aircraft just somehow blew itself apart. I have no idea what just happened. I think, I'm wondering if maybe I shot my own propellers off. Possibly. I think I probably did. I reckon those are too close. And I reckon the propeller came around and shot the whole thing off. Which is absolutely brilliant. So, anyway, I've shown you how to build an aircraft really badly. Let me show you some other aspects of the game now. So what we'll do is, we'll come back out and I'll go into, which one is it, short takeoff. So there's gun training, design a plane with guns, shoot down at least 2 drones in 2 minutes to win. So you go into here, and then you choose the aircraft that you want. So we're just going to load in, let's see, test jet 1 was it? No, not that one. I built one that just had, I stuck rockets all over this one, and the P-51 Mustang, I think I used to have a P-51 Mustang which had guns on it, but there's one of them that has air-to-air rockets on. Which one is it now? Some cool stuff in here. See, that's got massive bombs on it. I don't really want the massive bombs. That Crazy Jack doesn't fly very well, by the way. Now, I think that's got rocket pods and bombs. I think it was the Pigpen. Let's go with the Pigpen. So, we'll go into first person like that. If we change the weapon system to air-to-air mode, have we got the air-to-airs on here? I'm not sure if we have, actually. So in theory, we're supposed to be shooting them down with guns. good. Jet fighters against propeller planes. It's not the best idea, if I'm honest. Targeting off. Yeah, weapon system disabled. So this particular game mode is not allowing us to do that. So what we'll do is we'll go back and just go dogfight against an opponent. And what we'll do is we'll give the enemy the propeller plane that we just had, because we're evil. And we'll go in the just a straight pig pen. Now I've got the air-to-air. So this guy is basically a sitting duck. I'll show you how the weapons lock on. Okay, this guy's going to be turning all over the place. Oh, come here, you. Okay, let's just fly away and come back, because we've got a 5 mile range on this missile. And he's just going to annoy us all day long. Turn around. Enemies destroyed, you are victorious. Oh my god, the AI blew himself up. You know what it is? Because the aircraft that we just built is so bad, he couldn't work out how to activate it. Guardian weapon selected. Now the Guardian weapon is a radar locking weapon. So what happens is you get this massive circle, but it uses the onboard aircraft radar to guide the missile in, which essentially means we need to keep the enemy aircraft within that big circle at all times until he's been killed. Unlike this one, where we just get a lock, fire, and we can turn away. And he should be dead no matter what happens. Because the missile is now tracking him. Kaboom. There you go. So that's the air-to-air combat in it. We go for that again. And this time we'll go for this one. We'll fly straight over to him. Poor guy flying around in my horrible propeller aircraft and being shot down by a well-designed jet engine aircraft. It's just not fair, is it? But he's a drone, we don't care. Graphics are, like, okay. I mean, they're not terrible, but I mean, there's not a lot to be drawn, to be fair. There's just this kind of island. Oops. For some reason, it always starts with a landing gear extended. It's so annoying. There you go. So now we fire, but we have to keep him locked. You can hear the tone. There he's taken out. Achievement unlocked, ace. Okay, that's a ground mode. Don't know if we've got any weapons on board. What I'll do is I'll bring us in. And we shall touch down. So there are quite a few aspects to this game that I've not really looked at yet. I've not looked at the more... I'll show you in a second under gizmos. There's some extra bits and pieces that you can put in. There's also the whole countermeasure side of it. If the enemy starts shooting back at you and that kind of thing. Yeah, 200 mile an hour. I think there's also some air brakes that we can put in under gizmos. I'm not 100% on that. The audio system is like okay, but it's not brilliant. Wow, that didn't want to touch down, did it? There you go. But yeah, the actual, when you throttle up and throttle down, the engine audio just goes louder and quieter, which is obviously a bit derpy. Doesn't make that much sense. But on the whole, let's go back into here. Let's load that back in. On the whole, it's not a bad little game. It's quite fun actually. Test Jet 1 was horrible. There you go. So if you go to plus here, you've got structural we looked at. We've got the various bits and pieces. We've got wings, which we looked at. Not everything, but we looked at that kind of thing. We've got propulsion that we looked at. Landing gear that we looked at. Didn't use all of those. Various cockpits that we looked at. Gizmos. We've got camera and orbit camera, which I think maybe just gives you some different views, possibly. You can put a beacon light on top if you want to. You've got shock absorbers, which is, I think, more for building ground-based stuff. A detacher, which I've never even looked at yet. A floating block, which I can only assume is for seaplanes, but I don't know. And then these rotators and hinge rotators, which I have absolutely no idea what they do yet. Under weapons, we've obviously got the guns and the minigun that we looked at. We've looked at a bit of the the interceptor and that kind of thing. There's also unguarded rocket pods, and there's bombs as well, which you can look at. And then the sub-assemblies, which I'm not sure what that is, but maybe you can assemble things and save it out into a sub-assembly. Not something else I've looked at. Back into the main menu, just quickly show you that. Also you can show the drag components as well on your aircraft, as well as the mass lift and thrust. You've got these sandbox modes, you've got the challenges that you can do, short landing, SAM evasion, all that kind of stuff. The combat modes, the races that you can do, and then the tutorials. Doesn't appear to be, I don't think, race against opponents. I don't know if you can race against a computer opponent. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a way at the moment of playing against your friends or competing in any kind of server or anything like that. That doesn't appear to be there. It just appears to be one-on-one with AI and various challenges. But it is kind of cool. It is kind of fun, I won't lie. Designing these aircraft. You can bring up the aircraft properties, show you all the details. You can also show the drag. So these are the components creating drag, obviously. And then, you know, mirror and show that stuff. But that's it. Yeah, I just thought I'd show you a quick video on that because I kind of having a bit of a play with this thing and it's quite fun. That is it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, guys. Until next time, happy flying.